Hey, Omega.
Yes.
So, remember when everybody was saying, hey, let's see where this goes?
No.
You don't?
Yes.
I don't think he's even listening. I think he's got his head up his butt playing the Jew in the new South Park game. I'm just saying. But now that we've scrubbed off in here in the TeamSpeak and in the other various 420 chain things, let's just have. We're dedicating this show to the Daniel Bryan segment of last night. So here we go. Yes.
And I quote, we give for us a wings. No album like this, impact you all to smack down blue. I got something if you only listen to woo. Get serious. Oh, woo. Get serious. Oh, woo. Get serious.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Woo Get Serious number 110. My name is Gunner, and that is Omega BR.
I actually chose the fighter class because I'm a big man.
Or so they say. Joining us this week is our wonderful technical producer, Mr. Yankum DDS.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was too busy playing the Jew.
And also, our guest this week, the one, the only, the Net Jester.
All right, gentlemen, I want to compliment you. It's been 5 weeks without a fat, red-headed, loudmouth accident, so let's keep up the good work and watch for Falling Titans.
We stopped eating at P.F. Chang's, remember? Anyways, let's start with our first segment here, which is the news. CM Punk is announced to appear on this Sunday's Talking Dead panel show on AMC. The idea for Bad News Barrett to announce to the Chicago crowd that CM Punk, or at least he, was not there, was kicked around before it was nixed. WWE, specifically Vince, didn't want to badmouth Punk as he hoped he'll return. And the company has a lot invested in him licensing-wise, which is also why Sin Cara character was continued. Punk has some leverage due to his relationship with Vince, but as Triple H gains more power, his window for opportunity is closing. Many felt some of the things on last night's Raw were a message to Punk for not returning in Chicago, including AJ being laid out in the Divas match. So basically, even when he's not a part of the company, even when he's not in the back, in the locker room, CM Punk is still in the doghouse.
Forever a bone.
I don't really agree with how he walked out. You know, he's always done what he wanted to do. I don't really agree with him leaving them to hang like that, even though he probably did it for reasons that are deserved. I don't really agree with them punishing other people, but that's always pretty much how it works in that company, nay, the business. If he comes back, which really he could at any point, it's not like it was Chicago or nothing, but I think there's a certain sort of climax that you kind of, where a lot of opinions changed. I noticed after that Raw, a lot of people seem to be down on Punk, like they expected him to come back in Chicago, and the fact that he didn't meant that he was pretty dead set on not coming back. Kind of like with this whole WrestleMania thing, where, you know, certain WrestleMania is sort of a climax to certain things, that where if things don't start happening at WrestleMania, I think a lot of people are going to sour, although we'll talk about that later. Seems like they are going in a more positive direction. I hope they can figure something out, because he is quite an asset. I guess we'll skip on to a little bit of TNA news. TNA did have lockdown this past Sunday, as we briefly mentioned last week, in case you were interested in it. I did not actually see it, but I heard it was pretty much your typical TNA pay-per-view, including the return of Bobby Lashley, who made a surprise return, beating up EC3. Apparently Lashley has not signed a contract yet, but he is dedicated to the company and is definitely factored into plans moving forward. Kurt Angle was pulled from lockdown at the last minute in order to have surgery on his torn MCL, which is why EC3 was free for that spot. In the meantime, he has landed a role as the Fire Chief in the sequel to the cult classic Sharknado called Sharknado 2: the second one. Also, Jeff Jarrett has announced the day in which he will give his first announcement for his new big project, and it's actually the day after WrestleMania, which I believe is April 7th?
Correct.
Well, that'll be interesting. Is anyone looking forward to Sharknado 2? Because I'm looking forward to Sharknado 2.
I was about to say that Omega put the colon in the right place, because that's where I felt the original one pass through.
But that was the whole point of the movie.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. When bad movies are so bad they're good, it's never on purpose.
But now it is going to be on purpose, and that's going to be the best part about it. So I did watch the lockdown pay-per-view, much to my chagrin. It was kind of the only thing on that I wanted to watch since football's over, and really I don't have cable. So let me tell you something. That Bobby Lashley thing, that was a surprise. I tuned in right as that happened. I was like, hey, look, it's a black guy. Oh, hey, it's Bobby Lashley. I know you. And then the whole last hour was, well, let's put it this way. I don't know what WWE does to keep the leprechauns below the ring in Little People Court, but they do a lot better job of doing that than they do in TNA.
That's one way of putting it. I would say that I loved Bobby Lashley's run back in WWE, and I'm happy to see him again. I just, worry about him. He's going into TNA. How is that going to screw up his career? Oh, my dear Lord.
He's been in and out of TNA.
Yeah, I couldn't screw it up any more than the last time.
Yeah. It's already screwed up. He had the push, but he kind of talks like this, so I'm Bobby Lashley, and I look like I'm going to kill you, but I kind of talk like I'm 12.
That's one of the funner parts about him. You think he must have a gland deficiency or something.
I don't hate Lashley as a person or anything, but bringing him back very much feels like a 2 steps back move to me. He was a second-rate Lesnar in WWE. He was when he was in TNA the first time, and I don't see what he has to bring to the table, honestly. He's really not very interesting at all.
Let's move on here. WWE CFO George Barrios revealed to Bloomberg that WWE will announce their new TV deal at the end of April, beginning of May, saying they've talked with AMC, Viacom, Time Warner, and Fox. He did not rule out keeping their partnership with NBC Universal. An incident involving Batista and Power 97 DJ Cam Carson at a live event in Winnipeg may not have been staged, despite the event sponsored by his radio station. DJ was apparently intoxicated and yelling at Batista before hitting him in the back, leading Batista to shoving him back into his chair. After his match, Batista flipped Carson off, leading to Carson trying to hop the rail and then escorted out by security. Interesting juxtaposition of stories there, Omega.
Yes, Batista very much seems like the kind of person who does take it personally when somebody has something bad to say about him. Some of his comments on Twitter and, this, not that, nobody should ever put their hands on a performer, at least not in an aggressive manner. Obviously if you're in the crowd, you're going to get your back patted and all that stuff, but if it's how, I haven't heard any update on that. If this story's true the way it was told, and the guy was drunk and kind of taunting Batista, and Batista kind of gave him one back, then I guess I can't really blame him. But
well,
So
this
what do you
isn't
think
even the first
WWE
time.
will end up with their TV rights?
This isn't the first time a wrestler has had to deal with the fan in an aggressive manner. Even in recent memory. I'm sure no one's forgotten Punk decking the wrong dude because some asshole decided to hit him in the crowd.
Or that time that, Kevin Federline had a match on Raw. I mean, that was the worst instance of fan interaction I've ever seen.
Can say that again.
so you were saying the TV deal.
But where do you think they'll end up? Do you think they'll go back to NBC? Do you think they might end up on Viacom?
Just the way it's worded, it kind of makes me think that they are sticking with NBC and that they worked it out, and then because I almost feel like there would be more excitement and urgency about the whole thing if they had actually swapped to somebody new.
All right, we seem to have lost Gunner. We had somebody and then they were gone. Weird.
No, I'm here.
It's one of those nights on Woo. Anyway, moving right along.
So, can I do this last bit?
You want to do the last bit?
Let me do the last bit. Oh, here we go. Some fans were part of the Yes Movement segment last night, but most were backstage workers and caterers. Cameron had no idea who Arsenio Hall was prior to Total Divas appearing on the show. Amelia's Law was passed unanimously by the Tennessee State Senate after passing in the House, now requiring Governor Bill Haslam's signature. This is a law that was proposed after Zeb Coulter's 16-year-old granddaughter was killed in a car accident by a parolee going 75 miles an hour with oxycodone and meth in his system. The law allows judges to place monitoring devices for people convicted of drug-related crimes. And also, People.com reports Stacy Keebler and tech entrepreneur Jared Prober were married at a surprise sunset ceremony in Mexico. Say that 5 times fast, surprise sunset ceremony.
Rather not, I'll just say, Olé to Keebler.
That's strange. Good job, Stacy, and keeping relevant in our dating lives.
Okay, I realize this show has only been on the air for 3 or 4 months now that he's back on, but still, you don't know who Arsenio Hall is, really?
I don't know who Arsenio Hall is.
Seriously? God, you fucking really young kids these days and your lack of knowledge of good late night television. I bet you didn't know who Conan was until he was on friggin' TBS either.
I hated Conan before he was on TBS, and I still hate him now.
Nothing is funnier than a masturbating bear. Nothing.
I bet you didn't know that Bill Clinton could play the saxophone.
And we found that out on the Arsenio Hall show.
He's the only one that he's the reason why I played saxophone when I was 8 years old or something.
Oh, well, that's cool. Something we didn't know.
So, Zeb Coulter's dead granddaughter. Well, that was kind of a rude way to say that. The death of Zeb Coulter's granddaughter getting a law passed in the Tennessee House and Senate. That's a thing that happened.
Yeah. It's a shame that action had to happen that way, but hopefully this law will save a few lives, and that's why we make laws in the first place.
Well, that and revenue generation. But that is it. No more news.
No more news, so we're moving to the second segment here, the 15-minute time limit. This week we're going to be talking about the Occupy Raw movement and Daniel Bryan. So last week on Raw, hundreds of, quote, fans joined in the ring and started doing the yes chant, and then were berated by Triple H for being fat. Shades of Scott Steiner flew through my mind as I was watching this segment, but it seemed to me that this thing was kind of interesting. This is definitely not the wrestling of yesteryear. If you had proposed this 5 years ago and told me that this was going to happen, I would have told you you're fucking crazy and you're fantasy booking like a mofo. But we're sitting here and this is happening.
Okay, now how do you think this wouldn't happen? Just so many people in the ring, or a push for Daniel Bryan in the WWE?
That many marks near the ring.
Yeah. Well, like was reported during the news segment, a few of them were fans, but most of them were caterers and backstage people and whatnot. That guy that was next to D-Bry, that old man that was kind of snuggling up to him, was hilarious. But anyhow, I thought it was kind of interesting how they took that whole Occupy Raw movement that I guess it started on Twitter or whatever, and they kind of flipped it around into something kayfabe, and they did so in a not terrible way. That pretty much impressed me, because usually when they try and do something like that, it comes off as hokey and what's the word I'm looking for? Patronizing.
Terrible.
Oh, definitely patronizing. It's been an excellent opportunity to Vince to try to screw us once again with his right-wing ideology. Fortunately, it didn't work out like that.
Also, I think this is the first time a wrestler has ever been in the ring and said, "I am not leaving until I got my way," and then got their way.
Well, didn't Macho Man sort of do that when he was in WCW and wanted a match with Hogan?
I don't think it's the first time, but I think it's the first time they did it with the crowd and actually had kind of had a fan backing, kind of actually shut down the show, and because there's really not much you can do in that situation. It's sort of that bizarre kind of, can we really throw out everybody in the arena and arrest them, etc., etc., which, in the past has been used in less than interesting ways, like kind of like when Cena was fired because of the Nexus, and then came back and said he'd keep coming back, and so they had really no choice but to let him back. They could have at least stretched that out a little bit more, but yeah, that's pretty much exactly what the company should do when things like this happen, because the only reason things like hashtag Occupy Raw and things like that, the only reason those things even happen in the first place is because of the company's own ineptitude. It's not simply a matter of them not doing exactly what the fans want always, constantly, even though that seems like the logic behind some people's careers, like John Cena. It's really rather a matter of just, being good in a way, to be kind of blunt about it, I mean, you think about these rumors, these ideas, not that any of us know what they're thinking, but there's the idea that Bryan would still be a Wyatt if it wasn't for that one basketball crowd chanting his catchphrase, And now instead here, they're doing this unprecedented WrestleMania stipulation where if he beats Triple H, he then advances to the main event, which was one of the scenarios we presented a while back. And, I have to give the company kudos for really doing the right thing. And, the right thing isn't, not to make it sound like the right thing is what I want them to do, but rather the right thing is to embrace who is a star. And Bryan is clearly a star, and this is definitively a fantastic way to do it.
I was thinking that they were going to go a step further, actually. And in exchange for his stipulation, that he'd have to put up his beard.
See, that would be interesting, because his beard has sort of become a symbol of, kind of almost even having it is sort of a symbol of anti-authority, anti-the authority, because he doesn't look like your typical superstar. Then I would have bought that. I would have bought that more than, say, if he lost, he would be fired, or he'd have to become the authority slave, or something dumb like that. That always happens.
His beard is a symbol. I mean, you take a look at the shirts that they've been pushing out for him. They've been centering around his beard. And the thing is that they had a symbolic match where, Triple H would put up his. I think at this point, since they didn't book it this way, they'd have to put up like Triple H's somehow it'd be Triple H's power to be on Raw or something, or he'd be banned from Raw, and that it would be against Daniel's beard. There was another thing that was proposed the other day on the reaction thread for Raw. What if Daniel Bryan pins Triple H in 18 seconds? Exactly the same way Sheamus pinned him.
I wouldn't like that personally, because it would kind of diminish the entire thing they're trying to do with the fact that he, this match. The only reason people don't like didn't like the prospect of Bryan versus Triple H in the first place was because there's always that underlying worry that he would lose, and it's still kind of there. But I think it could be a really fantastic match. I think Bryan's obviously very good, and Triple H is very good when he's on, and he's in a big time match and all. Plus the fact that it really does. The match really does make sense, whether you like it or not. It's the fact that putting him with the Wyatts didn't make sense, but the build up of the authority, everything that's happened since SummerSlam, that gives this match, a lot of logic and sense and build up to it. And then you throw in this wrench of Bryan could advance to the main event, then that makes it even more powerful. So I get what you're saying as far as, Bryan wrestling 2 matches, but
this hasn't been done, by the way. This has not been done since WrestleMania 10, when Bret Hart did it with his brother in the opening match, and then fought in the closing match with Yokozuna.
Yeah, I remember it happening once at Royal Rumble. I think it was Lesnar had to beat somebody in the opening match to advance to the Rumble.
Yeah, some sort of tournament thing.
Well,
Yankoman, you two have been pretty quiet about it. What do you think about this?
I thought the whole thing was really cool, especially when Bryan started talking about taking the whole arena outside and just telling Triple H you can just have Raw by yourself. That was when I was like, whoa, no way. I mean, it really felt like he was being serious at that point, and using, I don't want to say terrorist tactics, but it is what it is. He basically took Raw hostage, to get his way, and while not necessarily a babyface tactic, was still really cool. I enjoy the shit out of it.
But it's a tactic that works because people want it to work. I mean, Omega just said about Daniel Bryan being a star. He's a star because not necessarily because the WWE made him all that way. It's because he really resonates with professional wrestling fans. It doesn't matter if you're not a fan who's known of his earlier work in the indies or what he's done since coming to the WWE. You just feel that as this guy has good matches, he ought to be pushed. And if the company's not going to do it, then somebody else needs to, like the fans.
Real quick, you guys, we've got 6 minutes or so left. This Andre the Giant Trophy Battle Royale.
Ooh, this could be nice. I love old school battle royals, and I haven't seen one in a proverbial coon's age. I'm so looking forward to this, but it all depends upon who gets put in there. I'm glad Big E's in there, but who else should be?
Basically anybody that doesn't already have a match, and they do this every year in some form or fashion, be it a dark match or whatever. It's really just an excuse to get as many people on the show as possible, which, I don't really mind them giving a little bit of importance to it, making it an Andre thing, and probably making it an annual thing.
Who do you think will win? Who should win? Who should win? Who do you think will win? Make some predictions here.
Well, I think somebody like somebody lower mid card that is ready to be pushed up into the upper mid card, or somebody in the mid card going into the upper mid card. I think that's somebody that should win that. Because I really don't think they have any intention of making it mean anything, really. And I would be surprised as shit if they even had it at WrestleMania 31. But let's assume for a second that it is going to mean something, and they are going to continue having it every year. That it should definitely be somebody... it should be like a workhorse reward, like how the IC title used to be, where they would give it to people who were, just maybe they weren't main event guys yet, but they would give them the title in order to reward them for being, faithful and loyal and a draw, if you know what I mean.
So, if NXT guys get in, all bets are off, I think.
It would be an interesting way to introduce an NXT guy to the main roster, but like Lincoln said, I don't see them treating it very importantly. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and throw out a prediction of Big Show just because, he's about as close to Andre as we've gotten since Andre died.
Oh, God, yes. Unfortunately, I have to agree with Omega on that one. Big Show looks like the most obvious, being he doesn't have a match for Mania so far.
You guys are all wrong. Every single one of you are wrong. I can't believe you can't see this.
All right, then give it to us. We got 2 minutes left.
Santino Marella.
Oh, for
Really?
the love of... No.
He's the first one that jumped to my mind, but I figured, nah.
Why? The only thing that could make it mean less than if Santino won it would be if Cena was the one that had won it. And immediately during that exchange with Bray, or before the exchange with Bray, when Cena put his name in, the first thing I said was, okay, it means nothing, and Cena's going to win it.
Basically, the reason why I'm picking Santino is because of his spot in the 40-man Rumble. What would happen would be that it would be him and Del Rio last. However, there would be no Ricardo Rodriguez to help him. Therefore, Santino would hit the Cobra, Del Rio takes the bump, and then you see Santino parading around with this fucking giant trophy because, his heart was too big.
And the trophy is probably bigger than Santino. Yeah, I can see this.
I mean, like, they gave King of the Ring to Sheamus to make Sheamus a joke. So why not give this to Santino to make him a joke? He carries it around with him in backstage segments and whatnot.
Because it's supposed to be like an honorific thing. It's supposed to be honoring Andre. It's not like just a random, let's have this. It's not like the WrestleMania 30 Mardi Gras bead explosion battle royal or anything like that.
Well, it might as well be, because they're just using Andre's name to get it over.
I know, but I'm saying if it was a goofy thing, then I could see a goofy winner. But since it's supposed to be honorific, then I see more of a dignified winner.
But you're applying logic, Omega BR, and we both know that logic does not apply to WWE.
Well, it has this past week, if nothing else.
Which
is correct.
Proves with us, yes.
Alright, that's it for 15-minute time limit. Yankum, do we got a song?
No, we don't. No song.
Then we'll catch you guys on the other side. We'll catch you guys on the other side, and we'll get into segment 3.